Hi guys, welcome to the channel. Yes, I should be doing other things. I've had to take a couple of easy days and the following video will explain why. I've been wanting to make this for a while. This is about how you heat hot water and the process behind it. Most of my life it's been a button or a switch or a dial. But now it's no longer. I am the button, the switch and the dial. The process is done over the period of 18 months, 2 years. Just to heat water. It doesn't take that long from just lighting the boiler, but you get the picture. And you have to have seasoned wood, over ideally 3 to 4 seasons. We're not in that situation because what's happened, but we're overcoming that situation and we will prevail. So this video, this is about how we make our hot water and the process behind it, but it's got some other interesting things in it. So I hope you enjoy the video. Thanks guys. Hello and welcome to the channel. Yes, I should be in the forest cutting. What I didn't show you was yesterday we went out to get some small salu and some small stuff that I could manage after the day with the chainsaws. My back didn't feel very good. And then to compound the problem is yesterday morning I got a phone call from the surgeon that did my back as the first month's follow-up. Yep, it's only been a month since I've had a disc removed. And I said to her now, the 4 weeks is up, when can I go back to work? And she asked me what I did and I told her and she said, well, 3 months. You've got to give it 3 months. So you need to rest for at least another 2 months and then don't lift anything heavy. So she said what you could do is do administration stuff, paperwork and this. Well, there is no business and therefore there's no paperwork, right? Because if you don't do anything other than pay bills, anyway. So then this morning we cut the small stuff because I know Sarah can cut up and split and chop all the small stuff on the machines. However, due to a learning curve mistake by a non-machinist, who's learning fast at many different things, my blade that you can see here in the background on the big splitting machine it's burnt and it's not good. So my first job today is to sharpen this. And I have to sharpen it by hand. And I've got a lot of experience in sharpening and creating and making cutters and cutter blocks and cutter blades and all this sort of stuff. But this is old school. There was a former life not that long ago you wouldn't have even looked where, you would have just laughed, thrown it in the bin and bought a carbon tip blade. Well, I don't have that. This is what I've got. I'll show you what I've got and then we're going to attempt to sharpen it. So this is an old school blade. For those that you know, each one of these blades here is slightly bent. This one down, this one up, this one down, this one up. And they all look quite good, but I don't know if the camera's even good enough to pick that up yet. You can see that they are all just blunt and burnt out. So in order to clear sawdust from a blade, not only are these bent down and up and down and up to create a groove in the timber that you're cutting, but also the facing edge here is shaped. One will be shaped one way and one will be shaped the other way. And this is to clear the sawdust. So whilst they look flat from where you are and it's just a simple case of sharpening this edge, firstly, you sharpen from behind, okay, not from the front. So you run your sharpening tool down the edge, down the back, and this will put a new tip. But I'm going to have to sharpen very slightly from the front and put the angle back on. And I can tell from the irregular movement, where's my camera? The irregular cut here, that it's been sharpened once or twice before. Not that many times. So I've inspected the blade because it got heated and there's no cracks, right? And it's really important because if a blade starts to crack, and I've got a perfect example in the other room, if a blade starts to crack, it will disintegrate. And what's worse on the blade that I've just got out to see if I can replace is it has a crack like this and a crack like this. And when they meet, this section is going to come out whilst this is spinning and it will go through flesh and bone like it's not even there. I've got a story about that. I don't know if I want to tell you, but I've been in the machine room on my own, huge moulding machines, multi-cutters, and a cutter has broke, and it went through 2 layers of composite panel, and the sun came through, and that was just to the left side of my head. So I've had a few escapes with machinery and tooling collapsing, but I've got to now sharpen this blade. And it's a task and a half, and I'm not going to do it by hand. I've put a angled cutter on my grinder there, and I'm just going to touch the back of all of these and clean them up, and then I'm going to touch the front at the right angle, and it throws the sawdust out. And I haven't had much success. I've had very little experience with these, and on my old sawmill it had a huge blade, and I tried and I tried and I tried, and I just couldn't get it. So I've got to do it. So I'll set you up, and then we'll see how we go. So these, I put these gussets in which it didn't have before. And what these do is it helps shed the sawdust and ease with cooling. So I've only done what I think I need to do there, but you can see the edges have got relatively good tips, shaped in the right way. And putting the gussets in will help a lot, and it's sharp. I just hope I've done it at the right angles and I don't instantly lose the tips, because this blade has been on that machine for, well, I don't know how long it's been on that machine, but we've had it for 5 years, and it's cut about 100 cube of wood every year. But it needed that really badly, and this blade didn't have any gussets, and I don't know why. Some do and some don't, but this helps just shed the sawdust out from between the blades. So I suppose the next thing we need to do is go and fit it. Well, that was 100% successful. That's a good job. So here's the small stuff we collected yesterday, and then it comes into this and gets sawn into length according to my marks on the saw, and then it gets split on this machine. And this is a hydraulic machine, and it splits it on a hydraulic ram like this, and then it gets stacked into there. And the big stuff gets split and the small stuff just gets stacked straight into the stillage. So yeah, we can get on now and do some work, have a cup of coffee, and then get this lot cut up, get it spread up, get it stacked, and we can go and get some more.
That slips in there.
I've been wanting to do a video for a while about hot water. In most places I've lived, hot water, you don't even think about it, it's on. Or at worst, you switch on an immersion heater or the gas boiler, there's always hot water, pretty much, or you can just fix the hot water with a flick of a switch. That's not how we live. That's not how we can afford to live. It's not particularly how I've chosen to live. And the wood that we're going to use for heating water is also not what I would normally use. This is the worst possible example of what I would never put up my chimney, but have no choice. So those that you don't know, I'm still recovering from back surgery. I've had a disc removed and I've had a herniated disc for maybe 25 years, but it ruptured and then it's been removed, and anyway, so I'm recovering. So we're short of the wood. The dog. We're short of the wood, so for our normal winter heating, we would use birch, like this. Here he is. And this is what we normally use, but all we have is what's here, and this is just a fraction of what we need for the winter. So I have managed to find some it's just junk wood with nails and all sorts in it. And I'm going to show you what we have to do to make water. So this is my Viadrus U22. It's an old style wood-fed water heater. And we don't need to have the heating on, but we do need to heat water all the way through the summer. So the first thing we have to do, Sarah has already cleaned it. Okay, so it's already cleaned and ready to go. So we open up the air flap, open up the door, and then we light it. And in order to light it, We use a small piece of birch bark for ignition. And then we need kindling, and there are 3 grades of kindling. The first is the tops from the birch trees, and the second is kindling that we chop with the axe and excise up, and the third is blockwood waste that comes from the factory. So the first thing we do is we gather a small, relatively insignificant amount like this. I'm talking to you, and he thinks that I'm talking to somebody. Is it? Huh? There's nobody here, is there? No, it's just me and you. I'm sure there's some things I just can't do one-handed, but I'm sure I can do this. So we light the birch bark and put that in, and then we put our small kindling on top, like this. Make sure the rear flue is open, and then we come to our next size kindling. We take some of this. Oh, we don't want smoke. So we need a bit of heat to get into the chimney before it will draw air. So our first small fire has to be nice, clean burning, hot. This warms the chimney, and once the chimney is warm, then it will draw. At the moment, if you don't, you see the room will just fill with smoke. So we need it to work like this first. Maybe take 1 or 2 slightly larger pieces from here, put them around the side. I have to bend and move quite slowly still. And then while that's gathering heat, I'll find a couple of suitable pieces to put down the sides. Like this. Just ugly. I would just not. Anyway, sometimes when you live like we do, you have to do what you have to do. Nails and all. Like this. And then we take my lovely old milking bucket and we get some of the bigger pieces in there. This is mainly offcuts that come out of the factory above. The small pieces, they come down here, and they're good for that intermediate stage. But you see how big the box is and how empty it is. Normally this would be full up and overflowing, but I've also not been able to do anything in the factory because of my back. I have the wood stacked up on pallets for the airflow, and then sometimes this can get a bit damp in here and lack of airflow, so I use a big fan there just to keep the air flowing. In the winter you don't have to do it, but in the spring and in the autumn when it's damp outside and there's much rain, you just need that extra bit of airflow, and there's air gaps all the way around so that the air flows. And it takes to get all the tanks up to temperature. Water temperature at the moment is sitting 30 degrees, 28 degrees, 20 degrees. So you need 80 degrees in this tank and 80 or 85 degrees in this tank, and then all that water will allow a bath, a shower, and we also have our washing machine and our dishwasher connected to the hot water. So once the water is hot, you run the hot water to the nearest tap, and then you can put on the washing machine, and the water's going to be hot. So there's no putting delicates. Well, we don't have anything delicate, but you couldn't wash if your washing machine is connected to the hot water. You can't be washing delicates, things like walls, pretty dresses, I don't know, that stuff, right? We don't have any of that stuff. It all goes in at whatever temperature the water is, which is 60, 70, 80 degrees. It gets washed and then that's it. And if it's too small, then you lose weight. Okay, so you will also notice that we do have an electric element to the tanks, but when you turn this on, your electric meter spins like this. Well, yeah, you've got to be a lottery winner to, well, not you haven't, I mean, that's, what's the word, silly. You've got to have money to burn to switch that on. So we burn wood instead of money. Oh, that's a pun, this is quite good actually. I wonder where I could use that. We burn wood instead of money. You burn money and I burn wood. Anyhow, so this is the process. Now it's starting to heat up. When it runs clean and clear on the top, look at that. Okay, now we shut this up. And then we shut the door. And then I start to feel a bit safer, because during lighting the fire, you have this in the boiler room. I don't like this in the boiler room. We have the steel door and it's all shuttered off for the wood room, and this should have nothing combustible in it. However, this stuff was damp, wet, so I put it here because it dries faster, because I've had to collect it because it's all I can get, because I couldn't cut the wood and spread it and dry it. Under a normal year we would be using what's in here, and then by the start of the winter the wood that I've cut would be dry, but because of my back and surgery and all these excuses, I'm having to put this shit in here. So once then the boiler is locked up like this, you give it some top air like so. We open this up and we can see how well the fire's doing in there. And then we pull this back, and I've been looking at the light on the camera so I can't see it, but there is a score mark. See that score mark? For normal running, I said that like that. Depending on where we are at the stage of the fire, I'm like this. And then we have all the adjustments on here. So when this boiler, fire, spit, furnace is at its most efficient, is when it's mixing the oxygen and the flames, the fire here, and it turns purple, blue and starts to roar. That's when it's at its most efficient, because at this point it's using energy and combusting the wood, and we also want to combust the gases in the top, and that's when it's at its best. So we leave this gapped and wide open for the moment, plenty of airflow, and we can hear it's starting to heat water. And then we just want a short circulation pump. We set the pump to the thermostat, you'll hear it click. So this is linked to the back here. That's the flue temperature. So we start the pump, which is the short circulation pump there on our ladder mat. And then we make sure all the valves are off. This one is off, this one is off, and the valve over here is off. And then This one also needs to be closed, and then we make sure that the big tank valves are open. This one is open here, yes, and then this one is open here. And what that does is it's on a short circuit just within this ring. So the cold water from the tanks come in here through the ladder mat, and the ladder mat, depending on temperature, will decide whether it wants to bypass any of the hot water or whether it wants to send it all through the boiler. And it does that, and then it comes out and it mixes here, and it goes up here along this pipe, in through this pipe into the tanks. And then for those who don't know, it circulates through the tanks. It goes into the next tank, circulates through that tank, it comes back out of the big pipe here and starts its whole journey again. Down through here, into this three-way valve, and it crosses over here and then goes back down here and back into the back of the furnace. And that's all it does while it's heating water. That's our short circuit. And then it will heat these up, and it'll take, to get hot water where it needs to be, about 3 hours, but you can put the washing machine and the dishwasher on after about 2 hours. We have to come back and check and put more wood on this, but it's burnt off the small stuff now. It's ready for stocking up. So then we just take the timber from here, nails and all ugly stuff. And we'll come back and check that in about 20 minutes. Close that up to that. Close that up to about halfway. And then as that combustible material I put in there starts to create gas, it will start to ignite it up at the top. And that's when it's combusting, the gases like that, it's running at its most efficient. It also creates its most heat. So it's old school. So in order to get hot water, that's how it starts. And then you put in an extra couple of pieces of timber every 30 minutes or so until all the gauges come up and read hot water. Or read hot to give you hot water. And then when we're at about this tank here will heat up before this one. So when this tank reaches 70, then you can put the washing machine on, or the dishwasher, or both. And then that will eventually creep to 80. And this will come up, this tank in here you can't see, but they're big iron tanks in there, steel tanks. This one will come up just behind it. And the small one at the bottom, yeah, that takes considerably longer. And then I keep a date of, or a log of what's going on here for everything I do. So I think we are like this. And this was, this is just, when I put a quarter, it's just for the evening for water. And this is the summer one. Oh. Futterbingers, yeah. And this is I keep a complete log here of every year and every winter for when the boiler is lit, when it's clean. So a line straight through the date there. That is boiler on. A minimum of 18 hours. Sometimes it's 24 hours. Full clean. This is from the top of the chimney all the way to the boiler. Half cleans is back flues and black boilers, and you can see through the winter I clean every 2 weeks. And that's basically from the door, the entire furnace, up the main flue, it goes into the chimney there, and then it goes up 15 metres, and it all gets a clean every 2 weeks. And it's all new inside, new chimney liners and everything. A lot of people would say that's too much. I like a clean chimney. I like a clean chimney. Sometimes we have to burn fir and pine and other things that you just wouldn't want to burn. You see there's a bit of smoke here now. We'll need to fully open the vent up there to allow that to escape, and yeah, there we are. What? What are you doing? And you've got the old shiny eye things going on. Right, well that's the first one, and we'll leave it 20 minutes now. Go and fix or work on something else, and then we'll be back. I'll be back. Okay, now we check. Go 32. One's lifting slightly, but is always slower. Our temperatures on our ladder mat should be right up there. There you go. Circulation is just under 50. Water circulating around the boiler is nearly 100. And our boiler temperature is 85. Have a little look through our wonder hole here. All burning lovely and clean. Look at that. Chuck some more on there. There we go, and that'll be good for another 40 minutes there. If you have good birch and stuff, then it's good for an hour, but when we're heating water I like to just inspect. So we'll leave that now on 35 degrees. Okay, let's see how we're doing. There we are. It's about an hour and a half after I lit it. And the temperatures, this one will rise very slowly, but the temperatures are rising nicely. That's where we are, and there. We'll just put a couple of small pieces in, so keep it going, because everything is nice and hot now, and we need to burn less wood. So keep it nice and hot. Maybe we just put a couple of these small pieces in. And then you can already put things like the washing machine and dishwasher on now, and in another 30-40 minutes I guess everything will be to maximum and you're good to run the water. Right, so here we are about 30 minutes later, and we're just shy of 80 there, 85 there, and this is coming, as you can see, we're now about 34 degrees, so it comes up slowly. And that's it. And now there's about 350 litres of water heated. Super hot in there. Staying steady. Circuit temperature is good. Okay, so you see this bottom valve is open now, and that's allowing water to circulate. In fact, you can hear it. So we're all good. Flue temperature is 150. It's cool. That's it. It's our job done. And that's how we make hot water.